My name is Dr. Cyrus Abbasian. I'm a consultant psychiatrist and I'm also an addiction specialist. I work for the NHS and the private sector. I've been a psychiatrist. I've been working and training in psychiatry since 2000, and I have a lot of experience treating a broad range of psychiatric conditions from mild right onto severe and also addictive disorders. I work for the NHS and also I work privately in London. I've been asked by many of my colleagues and also patients for advice regarding what to do during the current coronavirus pandemic. So I've made this video and I've come up with 9 points, and it's my two pennies worth in terms of general advice. Now, the first topic I'm going to talk about is fear. Now, fear is a natural phenomenon. It's important for us to feel the right amount of fear. It's protective from an evolutionary perspective. It keeps us safe. So the right amount of fear of this virus is really important. Just enough for us to keep our distance from others. That 2-meter rule is really important. To keep washing our hands, again, that's really important. And to self-isolate as much as possible. Currently, we have a lockdown in London and across the UK, as most of you are aware. However, too much fear can trigger anxiety disorders, can cause panic attacks, and also can lead to depression and other mental health conditions. So it's an important trigger for a severe psychiatric condition. So it's important to keep it at a balanced level. And also too much fear could make us overreact, and it could force us down the path of non-evidence-based medicine. And we've heard that people are trying all kinds of non-evidence-based interventions, hoping and believing that it will somehow prevent them from catching coronavirus, or it will somehow act as a cure. So the right amount of fear is important, not too much and not too little. Obviously, if you have too little fear, then we can be blasé and we can become careless and make mistakes, and we can catch this virus and then we can pass it on to others. The next point I'm going to talk about is information. It's important to obtain correct evidence-based information from appropriate sources. And the WHO website is an important source, and also the government website and the NHS website. And it's important to go on these websites, or it could be a news source, and obtain the right amount of information once, perhaps twice a day. Now, we live in the internet age and we are flooded by information. And here, less social media is the best, because especially there's a lot of fake news out there. It's important not to obtain this kind of crucial medical information just from any source via social media, but from appropriate government resources. The next item I'm going to talk about is the importance of having normality in our lives and having a routine. Now, being in lockdown for most of us is unnatural. We're social animals. We're used to going out. We're used to talking to people. Even for me, I miss the morning latte I have. The fact that I go to my local coffee shop, talk to the lady there, or order a coffee. It's something that I never thought I would miss to the extent that I'm missing now. However, we are in lockdown. We're in this situation, and we have to make the most of it. And it's important to have a normal routine, as normal as it can be, including work routine. It's important to get up in the morning at the right time and try and have a full day to the best of our ability. The next item would be communication. I think, it is vital for us to communicate with others, especially with people whom we're living with. and also to stay connected or e-connected with our extended friends and families. Again, it's unusual for families to be locked together for such extended periods, and it's important to have a line of communication between them so that they don't get into arguments, for example. I'm an addiction specialist, so I'm going to talk about alcohol and drugs next. It's important to keep alcohol intake to as low as possible and not to self-medicate with alcohol or with illicit drugs. Because in the short term, yes, it may give us euphoria, it may make us feel better, happier, but in the long term, it can actually worsen the situation. It can lead to depression and anxiety. Next, we're allowed out once a day for a daily exercise. It's important to use it. It's important to go out for a run, to exercise between half an hour to an hour every day. And that really helps, not just physically, but mentally. Well, one advice I give all my patients is this well-being, general stuff that you don't have to be a doctor to tell your patients, but just to exercise, just to have a proper routine during the day, proper work-life balance, that's really important. And going outdoors and getting fresh air, getting sunlight is important. Next, I think that we need to try and have a laugh. Try and watch comedy on television, and try and make the lockdown as pleasurable as possible. I know colleagues and friends who have organized online dance parties, for example. So that's really important. It keeps our spirits high. Also, thinking positively is important. Everything will be back to normal before you know it. In a matter of months, most of us will return to some form of normality. And it's important to think in a positive manner. And it's been shown that this positive thinking has a really important placebo effect, and it can strengthen our immune system. So being happy, thinking in a positive way, and exercising, all this has a positive effect on our immune system, and it can help us fight infections. And finally, we need to look at potential opportunities given the current crisis, the current pandemic. And it could be, for example, rediscovering hobbies that we abandoned many years ago. It could be playing the guitar, it could be painting, whatever you used to enjoy before. You didn't have the time to do it. Just make the time now. I mean, you probably have the time now to do it. And again, it's something that it can help your mood, your mental state in a really positive way. So the advice I gave is general advice that everyone should apply in terms of well-being measures. I'm going to finish by talking about people who've had underlying mental health issues before this coronavirus epidemic. And I think it's important to get specialist advice sooner than later. It's difficult to talk generically because everyone's going to be different. Someone has OCD, someone's got general anxiety disorder, somebody has schizophrenia. So their particular needs will differ. And this is why someone quite senior and experienced needs to look at their particular care package and how the coronavirus epidemic has affected them. For example, some of my patients with underlying anxiety, they've become more anxious. People or patients who've had thoughts of self-harm and suicide have become more suicidal as a result. And it's important that an appropriate risk plan is in place for them. However, not all patients are doing worse because of this. And in fact, I'm just going to finish up by talking about one of my patients who's got delusional disorder. And he's always been very paranoid towards his neighbors. And I called him, and he was fine. He was very happy because these neighbors are no longer there because they've left and they're in lockdown because of coronavirus. And he's so pleased, and he no longer feels persecuted by them. So he's in a happier place than he was before the lockdown. So in that case, we see that the lockdown hasn't been counterproductive to his mental state. Anyway, I hope that you found that useful, and I wish you all the best with the lockdown. And please make sure you think in a positive manner in the next few weeks and potentially months.